Welcoming Mark Golding, leader of the opposition, president of the PNP. Mark, morning.
Morning, Ronnie.
Yes,
morning.
we're giving you a dispensation to take off the mask.
Thank you, my brother.
But example is set. The man wears his mask to come to this event, and that is what we are called upon to do.
Yeah. We're still in Jamaica. We're still grappling with this pandemic in a major way, as you know. Our vaccination levels are second to worst in the region, and not even yet 14% of the population vaccinated. Latest number was 13.4%.
Why is that, Mark?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors, Ronnie. Yeah. I think that the manner in which it has been managed, I think, has not inspired confidence. So I think that the government has attempted to do too much in too centralized a way and lead the charge themselves. And I think that experience suggests that the credibility of the message would be enhanced if it was depoliticized. Now they've established a task force chaired by Professor Gordon Shirley.
Are you part of it?
No, we were not invited to.
What kind of arms house nonsense is that, sir?
I know. I have complained about it.
You can't talk about something national except you include major institutions, of which the opposition is one, the PNP.
Yeah, they should have invited us to participate, or at least nominate a member, sure. But they haven't. But in any event, the composition of the task force has some very experienced and competent people on it. And I think they need to step up now and really own the vaccination program. And I think that would help. And then in the churches, messengers like yourself and other church leaders across the island, and the medical profession as well, I think, need to step up in terms of the messaging. And hopefully some of the hesitancy, which is so pervasive, but is not... It's not something that cannot be overcome, because you may have experienced this too, I don't know, but I have experienced on more than one occasion persons who are extremely hesitant, and when you talk to them and you share information with them, they do come around,
Do you does the party support the dispensing of the vaccine by all medical practitioners or under certain conditions at all health centers? Would that
Absolutely.
help?
We have been calling for broadening the distribution of the vaccine. It doesn't work. This is another reason why the vaccination levels have been so low. The attempt has been to do it through centralized centers in major capitals. And the truth is that people just can't afford and are not inclined to pay to take transportation to go there and wait for long periods of time. Often in not particularly comfortable circumstances. Bring it to the people, Ronnie. Bring it to the communities so they can go and have it done in their community, the church halls, the schools, etc. I had a vaccination day in my constituency on the 9th of September. Over 500 people came and got vaccinated there. Let the doctors, they may have to have a fridge to maintain the cold chain and so on.
Sure. Let
the doctors do it. And they all have their patients in their private practices. Let them encourage their patients, trust them. And trust is a major factor in this.
Is there a role for political society, for political organizations? The People's National Party is divided into constituency divisions, groups, etc. How can... Many people don't think that's very or politics is very positive. Can it be in this situation?
I believe it can. The truth is that the two main political parties in Jamaica are two of the biggest organizations in the country in terms of adherence, along with some of the major churches. And we are in every nook and cranny across the country with an organization that is accustomed to carrying out tasks to support the political process. There is no reason why it cannot be leveraged and used to help with other major national efforts. And in fact, in my own constituency, when we did that vaccination day, our youth organization reps were courtesy officers. They weren't dressed in party colors. They were dressed in neutral colors. It wasn't a political day, but they are accustomed to doing that type of work. And the truth is, where we really need to focus right now in terms of vaccination is on the older population, the seniors, because we're only at 35% in that cohort. And that is the cohort that is particularly vulnerable, and where most of the persons who end up succumbing to COVID, they come from that, or those who have serious comorbidities. So we really need to get into the communities and encourage our seniors to get vaccinated and help them along. And I think that the political organization is accustomed to doing that kind of thing and can be useful.
The government's targets for vaccination over whatever period it is by the end of November, etc., are going to flop, Mark Golding.
They are.
Yes. The numbers are turning out to the events are low, much lower than anticipated.
I understand we're averaging about 2,000 a day, which if you look at the targets, it's going to be years before we get to, high percentages at that rate. So something has to be done. What is interesting though, Ronnie, is we've gone through a third wave, and the numbers have been improving. August was terrible, September was terrible, but it has been coming down. The positivity rate has been coming down. The numbers of persons dying is still very high, but has been coming down. The numbers in hospital have been coming down.
You're good, Mr. Golding. I don't trust those numbers.
Well,
you have to tell me who you're testing, why you're not testing more for those numbers of outcomes to be valid.
I agree that the testing is wholly inadequate and is irregular, but at the end of the day, the positivity rate says of those tested, how many were positive. And I would like
to know how much of that positivity rate is calculated in the private testing institutions versus the public, because things don't right all the while there.
That is true.
Yes.
And I don't think that the testing numbers are particularly significant, but when you look at the hospitalization levels and the deaths, that tells you something. Right. And what it tells me is that despite the low levels of vaccination, if those numbers are slowly coming down, and we are now apparently below, there was a graph shown in Parliament yesterday which showed the trajectory of patients in available beds for COVID, and it was way higher than the line of availability, and it has come and dipped below that now. So I suggest that it suggests to me that there's something happening in the wider population. Mm-hmm. Immunity is building up. Many people have caught the disease. Some have been ill. Some have been asymptomatic. And I mean, the thing has been rampant in the Delta variant is here, and so there is some amount of natural immunity taking place, and it is resulting in those numbers coming down. But unless we get the vaccination up, we're going to have serious challenges, because first of all, the elderly population with the low levels of vaccination there will result in ongoing sadness and death in the country. And there are some industries which require high levels of vaccination among staff.
So before we get to the schools then, tell me, try and persuade me not to disagree with you, that there should be a vaccine mandate.
I think that there should be a process, Ronnie, a process which is respectful and engaging at the workplace. I'm not against the idea of ultimately saying to an employee who is in a position in an enterprise where if they are not vaccinated, it significantly enhances the risk to themselves and their co-workers and customers. And you talk to them, you hear what their concerns are, you try and work through that, and ultimately hope that they will be vaccinated. Firms that have been doing that have had very good results. I know, for example, Jake's Hotel in Treasure Beach, over 100 employees, 100% vaccinated. And Jason Hensel was sharing with me, he put a lot of effort in engagement and sharing information, brought in specialists, medical specialists, to speak to the staff, answer their questions, and at the end of the day, all but 5 were willing to be vaccinated. And those 5 understood that that business needs the staff to be vaccinated because the guests expect it. Now, another firm that I'm familiar with has introduced an incentive, a care package. Much of their staff are inner city workers, persons who, feeling the pinch of the high spike in the cost of living. Wages have not kept up. And so offering them an incentive is much better than saying to them, boy, if it's take it or leave it, get vaccinated now or you're out the door. I don't like that hard line approach in the workplace, because I think there should be respectful consultation, which is what the employer groups, the PSOJ and JMEA and so on, and the unions, the Joint Confederation of Trade Unions, have come together and come up with a protocol around it. And it is possible at the end of the day that somebody may have to be separated if they refuse to be vaccinated and if the circumstances warrant it. So
how do you relate that to back to school?
Back to school is, as far as I'm concerned, Ronnie, that is the biggest threat to the country right now.
Listen to Mark Golding. Yeah. This is the biggest threat to the country right now.
Yeah.
The lockdown of schools.
Absolutely. It is going to have serious consequences in the near term, medium term, and long term. I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of children who have been effectively without any education for nearly 2 years. There needs to be, I think, a real program, well-funded, to remediate that situation and get those, they may have to repeat a year, they may need additional inputs to bring them back up the curve. They've lost so much. We have to do something about it. Now, in terms of back to school for children, it is not fair to children to keep them out of school. They cannot, first of all, for the primary school and early childhood, they're not even able to be vaccinated because there's no vaccine approved for them. So to say that they can't have face-to-face schooling, when you know that effectively means for many of them they can't have any education, when they cannot be vaccinated, how is that morally justified? Teachers can protect themselves. Or if they don't want to take the vaccine, they take the risk. But there should be face-to-face education in a way that minimizes the risk. You know, to the extent that we can have some of the classrooms less dense. I don't know whether they have to go to a shift system until we've sorted this out. You know, and we, of course, sanitize the children. We encourage them to wear masks. All of those things need to be worked through. But there must be a way of doing it.
The People's National Party, as I understand it, endorses the principle of subsidiarity, where you don't the top, the center doesn't take decisions that are appropriately for the community.
Yes.
Here's the situation. No, the Prime Minister said that laid out certain guidelines for back to school, but there's confusion. I'm aware personally, because of responsibilities I have, of 2 schools on the same compound. One has 600 students. The other has 1,000 students. One can start back, but the other can't stop back. Mark Golding, that's nonsense.
It is nonsense. And I agree with you that we should empower
The
schools boards and the
local Ministry of Health
to work out the parameters with as long as certain broad principles are adhered to.
Clearly.
And I do think that the risk to the country of not having the children in school is greater and more damaging than the risk of COVID infection. First of all, it is well recognized that young people, especially children, are not particularly high risk when it comes to COVID. And their parents and grandparents should be encouraged to get vaccinated. And the children should be told to encourage their parents to do so as well.
Should the government make every effort to secure the vaccine that is apparently now, soon, or is available for children?
Yes, I know, that was another mess, because what happened was the Pfizer vaccine, which is the one that is approved for children 12 and up, was brought here. It should have been used to vaccinate school children. That started, and then they decided to let adults use it. And then they didn't manage it properly. So a lot of adults got their first doses and were scheduled for their second doses. And when that date came, the Pfizer had finished. So they haven't been able to get their second doses. And many of the children have not been able to be vaccinated because it has run out. So yes, they're trying now, scrambling around. And I want to thank the government of Suriname that has made made some of their supply available to us. Wonderful cooperation.
That's a kind of regional cooperation.
Absolutely.
So,
and we've had it with Barbados, we've had it with Dominica.
Yes.
It's been very positive.
Yes, that's good. That's good. The overall, then we're talking about people are talking about getting back to normal. What's a new normal to be like, Mark Golding?
Well, the new normal is that COVID is going to become another virus that is there in the society. It's not going to disappear. And we're going to have to manage it properly. And that requires personal responsibility. Know yourself. Make sure that keep yourself fit. Try and make sure that your immunity is strong. And don't be silly about, if you're in large gatherings and so on, if you feel comfortable wearing a mask, wear a mask. Don't get too close to anybody when you're talking, all this kind of thing. And vaccination is going to be part of it as well. And for those who don't believe in it, well, fine, but you take your risk. Don't expect that, the society is going to continue to operate in a shutdown basis because you are not protected. You've had your opportunity. We have to get back to some kind of normal living because too many businesses are going to go under. Too many industries are going to collapse. Too many people are going to suffer from unemployment and low levels of income. We have to get back to a more normal operation.
Mark Golding is the leader of the opposition, president of the PNP. When we come back from this break on the public eye on the bridge, what does he think about the state of the Jamaican economy? People are hurting. The cost of living is out of control. The foreign exchange rate is so jerky, up and down. And really, under our present system of political economy, I'm going to ask him, really, is there a basis on which the people of South St. Andrew can really look forward to a bright future? And then finally, I want to declare him for you. What's the basis on which people listening to us in the diaspora, yearning for engagement in Jamaica, what can they see in the People's National Party? This is the Public Eye on the Bridge. Soon come. This is the Public Eye and the Open Mind on the Bridge 99, linking you with Irie Jam Radio in the tri-state area of New York. Talking with Mark Golding, president of the PNP and leader of the opposition. Mark Golding, people in Jamaica suffer. The cost of living, up to this morning, the price of crackers gone up, I'm told.
All baked products.
All baked products, yes?
Mm-hmm.
We get the news this morning that remittances are to households are down from what they were, even if the overall level seem to be holding with an increase. Where's this going, sir? What can you suggest? What is the antidote?
Well, we have been very lucky as a country that the stimulus in some of our major diaspora countries, the stimulus of those governments has helped to enable our people to step up and improve and strengthen what they already have been doing to keep their relatives in Jamaica.
Lifeline.
That's a lifeline. But it's not obviously sustainable because the stimulus in those countries is being tapered off. And we'll no doubt soon revert to what we might say are the more normal levels. Obviously, we have to try and get the economy back to normal. I believe agriculture is a key thing to strengthening the economy overall. We need to diversify away from being too reliant on particular industries like tourism, which is so prone to shocks and disturbances from external factors. And we need to really focus on food security and water as well.
Do you see any signs of that in terms of policy or the effectuation of policy? What I see is that we have swapped sugar for tourism with the same pattern, that the majority of the money, of the profit, is exported from this country. Is that a basis for economic revival? Does that give any hope to the people you represent or are used to?
No, it doesn't. And that model of development is really inadequate. And the truth is that we need to find ways that we empower small farmers. They need farm roads, need some attention. Water supplies for irrigation need some attention. Storage for product in times of glut. We need to be able to take some of the market risk off of the small farmers. The PC banks, they've been increasingly bureaucratized. I'm told by small farmers that they find it very difficult to access credit now because of the new requirements that are being imposed on them. We need to look at that and reduce some of the hurdles so they can access credit. And titling, as you've said, and the titling is another critical area where so many people in Jamaica have occupied land for extended periods of time. It may be family land or land that they've bought, but they don't have a registered title for.
Dead assets.
So that, I think, a very progressive policy around agriculture and rural development is very, very critical. And then we need to focus on the people of the country and strengthening the human resource capacity of the people. And the education system is, and you have been a former Minister of Education and tackled it well. More needs to be done at the early childhood and primary level to raise standards so that when we get to secondary school, we have a much higher percentage of our students who are numerate and literate in the basics and critical thinking. And that, a targeted approach to that, because I do believe that trying to solve these problems at the secondary school level is too late.
Too late.
Yeah, and we can solve them early on, and those children will be set right for the rest of their lives.
I can hear many of our listeners muttering, boy, what a way this man have good answer, but why when PNP in power we don't carry it all through?
Well, Ronnie, the PNP has been responsible for delivering so many positive things. I mean, the public health system that we're now relying on to keep, it was built out by the PNP in the 70s. Free education was a PNP policy, and so many people in Jamaica were empowered by that. From common entrance under Norman Manley, when it used to be 2 scholarships to the people per parish, he opened it up to on a meritocratic system so that all bright children had a chance. And then Michael Manley expanded it exponentially in the 70s. So we have a history of delivering those types of things. The truth is, the last PNP government inherited a situation where the debt of the country was overwhelming. It was really bankrupting the nation, and we had to spend 4 years righting that. And it was a major achievement for the long-term future of the country. But it did mean at the time that there was just not the fiscal space, as it's called, the available resources to do everything we'd like to do in the social sector. Fortunately, Ronnie, those reforms have borne fruit, and we have significantly more resources available. So the question of priorities now comes up. How do you spend the money that you have? Do you spend it on building more and more highways, or do you start to reallocate some of that to dealing with the situations in the poorer communities, which is feeding the crime mill that Jamaica is on? Do you start to improve sewage systems? Do you start to improve street lighting and garbage collection, those things? Do you focus on primary schools that are not delivering results for the children and level up the standards so that all children in the primary school system...
Suppose you gave rebel youth some work in building public infrastructure, properly supervised, no crash program, doing necessary things. Do you think that would help with crime?
I think you need to have a national program for the youths who are either not in university or not in an apprenticeship on a job, the ones who are on the corners digging out them hand middle and getting lured into a life of crime and status through the gun. We need to provide a program that provides mentorship for them, training, remedial education and training, a stipend that encourages them to go through the course, and job opportunities. And some of those job opportunities can be the kind of thing that you've discussed.
People are saying that where the money would come from for that, sir?
The money would come from the fiscal resources of the country. We may have to look at, for example, our capital budget, which has been expanded. When we've built out the South Coast Highway project that we're building now, and we have a road network, yes, we'll always have to maintain our road network, but it may be that new major road projects must be deprioritized, and investing in the youth and the children of the country must be prioritized. And that is a generational investment that will help to solve the crime problem that we have.
Clear statement. Last question before you go and sign the condolence book for the late Colin Powell, great Jamaican, great friend of all Jamaicans. People listening to us from the diaspora, concerned about engagement in Jamaica, they have to stay there, many of them, for all the reasons we know, but dying to be involved, concerned about the politics. Why should they notice the PNP, and how?
Well, we have made some recent changes which I think are significant from that perspective. We've always had a commission within the party for international affairs. We've renamed it the International and Diaspora Affairs Commission, and it's co-chaired by a very competent, lovely lady based in Florida, an immigration lawyer.
Delia Walker Huntington.
Yeah, Delia Walker Huntington is co-chairing it, and we're looking to amend our constitution to enable persons who are not Jamaicans who are not on the voters list here to nevertheless participate in the party and become members. So we want to expand our reach into the diaspora by allowing persons who want to join the party to do so, not just through the affiliates that are there, but directly if they so wish. And we're generally trying to deepen the levels of engagement. I have been on numerous Zoom calls with diaspora groups, both in the US and Canada and the UK, and I intend to continue that. And once travel becomes a little less burdensome with COVID and so on, I want to be visiting those countries so I can speak to people one-on-one. So we don't just see this as an exercise in fundraising for the party, as important as that is, but we see the diaspora as a huge resource base for the country.
But why the PNP? They're asking why they should link the PNP rather than the JLP or anybody else?
Well, I think because we are making these efforts, and we do see the diaspora as a critical partner going forward, and we want respectful engagement from them. We want them to be on our task forces that support our spokespersons, on our party commissions looking at human rights, looking at policy and all of those things. And secondly, because we believe that we are the party that is looking to tackle the really fundamental issues that are affecting the Jamaican society and that are holding us back, and focusing on solutions for that. And we've been discussing some of those issues today, Ronnie. And I think the JLP has a different vision, and then we really see people as the center of policy. And investment in our people is going to be what we really focus on. It's not going to happen overnight, Ronnie, but it is very important that we start looking at development through the lens of the people and, of course, the environment, because that's another critical area.
Would you support a constitutional amendment that provided at least a seat in the Senate?
Absolutely.
For diaspora
and I've been in discussions with the diaspora groups on that. I think it's doable. I think that we could have diaspora representation in the Senate without upsetting the important and delicate balance that the Constitution has fashioned for avoiding dominance on critical issues by the governing party of the day. But I think it can be done, and we are committed to it.
Are you willing to even consider a discussion of a discernment on the issue of this dual citizenship, where a person in Canada has a right to be a candidate in Jamaica, but a person living 5 miles across the border can't?
Absolutely. I mean, that is a historical anomaly which is no longer relevant, and it's an anachronism. Yeah. And I do think that particular rule that precludes dual citizens from being eligible to serve in our parliament, that needs to be addressed.
Needs to be reconsidered.
Yeah.
Mark Golding, leader of the PNP, leader of the opposition as well. Thanks so much. We long to expose the ideas of progressive politics to the people in the diaspora.
Yes.
Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, man. Big up all of the people in the tri-state area.
Yes.
I'm glad to have been able to share with you, and so glad that you have one of the premier journalists of Jamaica and a man who has given so much to his country in so many areas. Great Ronnie Thwaites.
Hear that now.
With you. Respect you, Ronnie.
All the best.
Yes,
good. Soon come back on the Public Eye.